Alright, hello and welcome. So, we are finally going to be talking about the rest of my kind of ideas around Matchmaking 2.0. And in this video, we're going to be going over the structured content. For those of you that may have missed it, this here is my kind of general matchmaking stuff, my ideas for that, to improve the matchmaking of just getting into any mission in Warframe. But in this video, we're going to focus in a little bit and talk about Dragon Vaults, which is how you get corrupted mods. Relics, which is the most important kind of farm in the game, where that's kind of the largest group activity, I would say, in the entire game, which it's very important to make that better because I think it's very poor right now. And trials. Trials are not run super a lot, but I think a lot of that is due to the tools not really being there to easily get you into a mission, and there's not a huge amount of incentive for a lot of the community to teach people to do that or to learn to do it themselves, so we'll talk about some ways to kind of fix that stuff up in general. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the kind of problems that those systems have as it stands right now. And the main problem is that actually getting into all of those things is slow, clunky, and it's intimidating for new players. And the reason behind all of those things is this right here, this chat. So right now, this is the only way in-game that we have to match into a party. People post what they want to run in here. People that are looking for missions sometimes just sit here or post what they want to run. And you get into parties very slowly. And it's just not fun to sit in this. Like, if there was some beneficial activity you could do while also doing this, it might be a little nicer, I guess. But overall, it's just not great, to be completely honest. So this is the stopgap of, like, this is what needs to change. And not that this needs to go away, because this being an option is kind of fine, but we need an easier system for a larger majority of players, especially on console, where chatting on console is what I would call abysmal. Let's go with that. Let's go with abysmal, because it's just not like who has like a keyboard hooked up to their PS4? Me? Like, it's not common. So alleviating some console player woes is kind of going to be a bonus here. So the way I would like to go about fixing this is from this menu here. So this is where we get into all of our missions. You got all the planets here, you got your alerts, you got your syndicate missions, you got pretty much everything that we run, you can run from here with the exception of a couple missions. And that's really important because there's room to grow on this. There's a lot of room even. So up here we have matchmaking, public, friends only, invite, solo. And right next to this, there's a real nice spot for a more proper matchmaking system. In that, you could open up like a bigger drop down that would cover probably a fair amount of your screen because of the amount of options you would want to have in it. And you could put yourself into a sort of Tenno recruitment pool, as I'm going to call it. So the way that you would go about doing this is you would select one of your loadouts, which obviously you can prepare loadouts in the arsenal and have multiple. So you'd select one of those and allow yourself to have that and put yourself in a kind of LFG mode that you set some parameters around. For example, being like a decaying key holder for a Dragon Vault run, or being able to run multiple keys even, which would be hugely helpful for those types of things, because with enough players participating in that, and because it would be a thing that you could do along with running things that you might just already be running anyway, like maybe you've got a group together and you're going to go to Sedna on Vodyanoi, but while you're doing that, it's like, okay, well, eventually you're going to match into a trial, and then after a Vodyanoi run, you're going to be like, I'm out, I'm going to go run LOR. I think that's like kind of a fair scenario for someone to be in, and we'll talk about kind of the more specifics of running a mission like LOR out of this in a second, but this would be a really fast way to get into the missions you would not otherwise normally do. So with this, you'd set it up, be like, I want to run Dragon Vaults, I want to be the host, like then you would choose a key that you want to go as, or like if you're the host you will go with like using this key in your inventory, or just like choose to like never be the host, because those types of options are really useful if you've got like a poor connection and hosting is not like good for you. That would be really nice. But being able to be like, I'll take any key, I'm going to bring my Anaros loadout, let's say, that's what probably I would use for that. And then once you have 3 other people that can fill in those other key slots, it just starts the mission up. Like, you get out of a mission and it goes, oh yeah, accept, yes, and then everyone goes. Like, once everyone has accepted the mission, it just starts loading into the mission and everyone goes for it. then you don't have to talk to those people. The matchmaking system has already determined who's carrying what key. There's no extra like fluff stuff that you're doing except for, oh yeah, now I'm prepared to do that mission. Fantastic. Like, that's a great way to kind of fix the Dragon Vaults from just being a boring schlock of like looking at this chat and being like, where's a guy for decaying? Where's a guy for hobbled? And just sitting here and waiting to get a party together, because that's no fun. So that's kind of the simple part of this, which is the Dragon Vaults. And the relics would be kind of in a lot of the same way, but it would be significantly more complicated. So adding a UI for relics here probably isn't the proper thing to do. What would be really awesome is some functionality added to this menu over here. So you've got your Axii, your Neos, your Mesos, Liths, all that stuff. And there's like a lot of people have a large collection of these and they don't really know what they have. So with this, matching for these is very important. So there's a lot of different things you could do. With this, be like, maybe I want to run Radiant Axii N1s. So it would require a little bit of expansion of this menu, which I don't think is a big deal, where you can put checkboxes on all of the relics that you want to run. And then you can get more specific within that by putting checkboxes next to what qualities you want to run. Like a basic one would just be, oh yes, you want to run intact ones. But then within that, you can be like, oh, I will also run radiance of these, or like I will only run radiance of these, and allow you to choose a ton of relics that you want to run, and alternatively in the matchmaking menu be able to choose any. Like, I will run any relic, because maybe you're just going for ducats and you have everything you want out of the relics you currently have. With that, it would allow you to just like kind of hit go on matching with other players for relics. And if there's someone else that is, like, there are 3 other people that are looking for an Axii N1 Radiant farm, it will just match you with them, and you will go and do that and try and get the Ash Prime systems. With that, it would also allow people that are using kind of the any mode to be matched with you, and maybe any and then any quality would also be an option for people that just have void traces that it's like, I'm not really stocking up on these, I'll just use them to get into more matches. That way, if someone has an Axii N1 relic but doesn't really care about it like myself, and I'm almost at my cap of traces, so I might as well use them, you could just check off a bunch of shit and be like, yeah, any quality, whatever, and then suddenly, because I have this relic, the person that is looking specifically for an Axii N1 relic at a Radiant level is getting matched with me. So it's helping me out by just immediately putting me into things and just like letting me just farm ducats and do whatever. And also, beyond that, allowing the person that is looking for specific things to get people with them much faster. And that's kind of the big problem with the Void right now, is that it used to be that it was very easy. And even in this, it was significantly easier, where you just go in chat and be like, hosting T4 interception. And you just have a party for that. Like, that's because it was only using your thing. And now that they've made it so that it's much more important for other people to be using the same thing as you if you're going for a specific item, the matching needs to be a lot better and way more customizable. And a lot of the weight of that really should be taken off the players. Because if I only have this relic, which I want to run with Jacob, for example, like, obviously you could still save this and whatnot, but say I want to run G1 relics. Opening this up and finding people for that, especially if it's not like this, which has like the Galatine Prime, which just came out. Say it's this, and I really want a Skindo Prime Blade. That could take a long ass time to find like 3 other people with this S1 relic, this vaulted relic. That could take some time, and that is really, really boring. And it's just not fun. And finding people for those things is kind of important. So giving us like a breakout of options and ways to match would really be helpful, and letting us do other things. Like, for example, maybe you're going to go to ODS. You're going to go to ODS because you want to get more relics, and like while you're in ODS, say at like the 18-minute mark, it's like, oh hey, there's a party available. Like there's multiple people that want to get in on doing this Radiant run, and it would alert all of you, and it'd be like, oh okay, well then I'm going to extract at 20 minutes. And speaking of that, because I know what a couple of you just thought is like, oh, that's going to encourage leaving if you're allowed to do that. No, because the best way to discourage leaving is that if you fail your mission or if you quit out, it cancels your matchmaking. This would make it so that people are still incentivized to complete their missions, and in fact makes it a little bit more important, which it didn't really need to be, but it's still nice that people are incentivized to win. And if you join into a party, and let's say you're matching into, let's say you're going to Jupiter on defense, and you're some MR16 guy, and there's people like this, and I don't run into them very often, but they do exist, and they look at their party that they matched with, and it's like an MR4 and like an MR like 3 happens to be in the mission, and they leave because they don't want to carry in quotation marks these people. That also deserves a penalty. So with that, it would be like a 20-minute lockout from the looking for group, because any way that you can discourage people from doing shit like that to others and just cooperating is probably going to be nice, honestly. And just having people leave matching all the time is no good, so curbing that while it doesn't even exist yet would be a real good move. But yeah, that's the kind of basic matching around Dragon Vaults and Relics that I would like to do. And then there's the step further, which is for trials. So trials are much the same way right now, except for they kind of have this special menu because it's 8 players. So you get this, and as a party leader, I think going to this menu is kind of totally fine because it's a unique mission that has like a higher player count, and you got to have some way to arrange that. Matching like 8 players together just kind of randomly doesn't really work because you're looking for more specific things, and our class representation is really terrible. And that's not so much it's a good and bad thing, because classes aren't like set in stone as they are in like traditional MMOs where it's like, oh, what are you? I'm a tank, a DPS, or I'm a healer, or a support, or whatnot. That's kind of the old basic way we have it in a lot of games. Warframe's not really like that. A lot of Warframes can fill like a variety of roles. So things have to be a little more specific, and that responsibility should fall on the leader of the party, which the leader will get some benefits with the system as well, including but not limited to faster matching. So with this, before I talked about being able to set a specific loadout as what you're matching with. So if you decide to match for like the Law of Retribution or JV or Nightmare LOR, you would be able to set a kind of, let's say, 25 characters or less tag for yourself. For example, EV Trinity, Blessing Trinity, Crowd Control Rhino, Crowd Control Vauban, Carrier Nova, Carrier Loki, some kind of basic roles, and like there's plenty of names for those types of things, so that you could be relatively easily identified and give the party leader access to exactly what you're bringing. If a party leader is trying to discern people that they want to find, give them a menu and a filter where it's like, oh, I need a Trinity, I want a Trinity for LOR, like you do. So you type Trinity in, like with like the general searching that we have now, or you just select it from a drop down, what have you, just kind of a basic searching system, and be like, that person's an EV Trinity, look at their build, it's like, yep, they're definitely an EV Trinity, and you invite them. Super simple, easy as that. You can just have it be more broken out so that the leader can just see who wants to go on LOR. They're not sitting in here and hoping that those people are out of their missions and they're just bored and looking at the recruiting and it's like, oh yeah, I guess I'll go on LOR. And you don't have to interact with people that are like looking for LOR, and it's like, okay, well, I have no idea what you have. Can you go as Crowd Control? Can you go as Trinity EV? And then you never really know what you're getting, and that's really poor as a leader. Now, with that, I can already see in my head the main problem with that system, in that people will only invite people that are like, you look at them and it's like, oh, that guy has a perfect build. That guy he's the most ready motherfucker I have ever seen for this mission. And that should not be that way, obviously, because doing that, it doesn't let new people come into the system, and it doesn't let veterans train newer players that are just starting out. So, with that, I would like to introduce a kind of new trial reward, which I am calling Mastery Shards. And this is like the super roughest idea But I think it's, like, the values would have to be adjusted and stuff, but I think it's a good idea to incentivize people to run this type of thing with newer players. But let's just go over the basics of these things first. So it'd be like 30 mastery shards to instantly level a formed weapon. So if you have, like, let's say your Vacor Heck, it's like, oh, this thing's fully leveled, I've got these mastery shards, you can be like, Forma, boom, it's leveled again, another Forma, and, like, it just speeds up your forming process because you are a person that runs raids, which is a nice little side benefit, but it's not too great and doesn't outweigh the regular rewards of the Law of Retribution and stuff. So with that, if you're a host, you would earn like 6 per mission, because you are spending that key and you're risking some of your resources to run the mission, so I think 6 is fair. For the other players in the mission, a base of 4, I think, is pretty reasonable per raid. So the maximum you'd be able to get as a host from just hosting would be 18, and as a just invitee, you'd be maxing out at 12, which I think is pretty reasonable. And with that, the bonus for teaching new players is that if you have a player in your party that has done it less than 5 times, you get +1 mastery shard per player, and everyone in the party benefits from that. So you as the host, if you're bringing 7 other new players, you'd be able to get 7 more mastery shards from the completion of the raid. So with that, if you have those new players, they're also getting the benefit there. So if you are like me, kind of, where you want to teach a lot of people the raid, you would be getting a bonus for being someone who's willing to take the new players in and teach them how to run the content, because that is kind of a thing that we need in the game, is people who are willing to teach. And it's not that we don't have those, because in the description down below, if you'd like to start running the raid now, there is a link to the Discord for the raid school bus. Those guys run the raids constantly, parties every single day. They're great about teaching people new things that do want to learn. So if you want to go check those guys out, that's probably the best way to learn the raid right now. And also, for those of you that don't know, I teach the raid on Saturdays, so come check out the streams then. Anyway, moving on, I think that kind of overall system would be a good way to get people into things, where you'd be able to set a couple builds to a couple different things you're searching for, where you'd be able to just go into a menu and be like, what do I want to do? I want to do a Dragon Vault, I'll bring my Inaros build, and I'll go with any key, and it would just try and match you, and as you're coming out of a mission, you just accept that and be like, yeah, okay, great, now I'm in this party. Like, the matching system sorted out all these keys for us already, they auto-equip to us, all that stuff, fantastic. Now you're just running that mission, it's just a constant loop of like just keeping you going. And then beyond that, same thing with relics, just automatically equips the one that you matched for. You don't have to deal with that menu, you don't have to make it radiant. If you're searching for specifically like a radiant, it'll just make it radiant for you, provided you have the traces. All that stuff will just be done for you, and it just takes a lot of like the overhead, not fun bulk kind of out of the game. And then with trials, like obviously, like if you want to run relics, it's like I want to run relics as Excalibur, set that while also having your Inaros thing, and just breaking it down and letting you play the game while trying to get into the structured content that the game offers. And this could be busted out into like, I want to search for nightmares with this build, and it's like, okay, well then they're gonna try and match you into like any nightmare that's available on the map, like just all the people that want to do nightmares, get them in there, and then there you go, have it that way. Have it with Arcwing missions, because not a lot of people run those, but not a lot of people run those because the nodes are like usually fairly empty. Like let's just go look at a random Arcwing node. Here we go, let's look at Pandora. Zero. So being able to like, I'm sure there's probably people that do want to run this mission, but they see 0 and they don't want to do it alone. So being able to match for Arcwing stuff might make Arcwing a lot more popular. And then being able to match for just bosses, like, hey, I'm a player that wants to farm Frost, but nobody happens to be running the boss of Mars right now, which is Olympus? Yeah. If no, wait, no, that's not correct. I don't remember which node it is, whatever. If you want to run the boss of any specific planet and like go farm a frame, but no one's running it right now, you can just be like, oh yeah, match me for that whenever there is a party for it. And then you've got a farming party for whatever Warframe you want. There's a lot of ways the system can be really nice for just allowing you to like be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go two extractors on Huracan, and then I'll be matching for the other stuff I actually care about at the same time that I'm still doing other things. which I think would really fill out just the general stuff that you're doing in Warframe and keeping it easy and not cluttered. Because this right here, it's worked for us for long enough, but we need a better system than this thing, to be completely honest. But yeah, got a little rambly in there, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully my notes on screen kind of helped significantly. But yeah, that's my ideas for Matchmaking 2.0. You can see my notes in the description, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.